head. There's also a wing, we call it, that helps promote airflow. And there's the basic patent on this thing is that there is a housing mounted to a chopping device with a housing mounted to a corn head that has a bottom. And the bottom is a critical part. If you don't have a bottom, it goes to the ground. If it doesn't go to the ground, you got a bottom. That's just how it is. And keeping it off the ground, as you've heard a couple of times here, keeping the ash content down, keeping the rocks there is just really critical. The ethanol people hate the ground, hate dirt, whatever. They get bacteria and it just messes everything up with the ethanol process. Right now, DuPont with a company called DDCE, it's DuPont Cellulosic Ethanol, are building a plant in Nevada, Iowa. I mean, it's funded, the ground's broken, and all that sort of thing. Poet is building a plant pretty much the same timeline at Emmitsburg, Iowa. And I don't know if I pronounced this right, but Abengoa. Okay, thank you. At Hugoton, Kansas, I think. They're building a plant there. All of these cellulosic ethanol plants are going to use stover as the feed ingredient. And you've heard a lot about switchgrass and dedicated biomass crops, and they are what they are, and there may be a place for them. Corn stover is the only raw material that's even close to being available and in quantity enough to meet the cellulosic ethanol requirements of the renewable fuel standard. And that's a whole other subject. We can stand out here all day and talk about renewable fuels. And people are trying to get these standards knocked down now because the fact of the matter is we missed last year, we missed this year, we'll probably miss next year because there's not the cellulosic ethanol out there to mix with the fossil fuels that the government requires. So you can't blame Shell or whoever for not using the stuff if it's just not available. So it's the timing for what we're doing out here is really good because the demand is there right now. If this was 10 years ago, people would say, okay, that's a nice corn head, but what are you going to do with it? Because corn was $2.50 or whatever. Just wasn't nearly as big of an issue. But after the chopper gets the stuff chopped up and everything, it gets blown through a tunnel, and you'll see this on the header at the shop. There's a tunnel there that goes into this conveyor. There's an elbow on there, and it sends it toward the center of the combine. The conveyor takes the heavier particles. The airborne stuff is literally airborne right to the center. There's that windrow that we tried to make earlier when Mike and I were out here is this soggy as heck, and it's much more packed down than you'd normally see. But as I was telling Dr. Tyner as we rode over here, the particle size, depending on what you're doing, is kind of important. With what Carl's doing, he doesn't care as long as he can get it up off the ground. He's fine. He's wrapping his bedding, so moisture is not the issue. But for people where bedding is needed, but they don't want to wrap it, getting it dry down is really a big deal. So we've done a lot of testing and stuff this fall, and I'm pretty confident that I know what I'm doing. I feel like I should have a PhD in corn stover physiology or something. And all I want to do is get the stuff dry for the people who want it dry and wet for the people who want it wet. It's just that simple. But Mother Nature has her own ideas. So does anybody have any questions before I start this thing up and see if the corn is dry enough to actually run?